I'm also I'm also a volunteer with AARP New Hampshire. The recording for today's virtual event will be available in a few days at the displayed YouTube link. If you have a question, please put it in the chat. We welcome your questions. My fellow volunteer, Frances Donahue, will address them periodically throughout this demonstration.
Excuse
She will
me.
also be putting in the links for the recording, the web address for Liz's recipes, and information on the March 21st cooking class throughout this demonstration.
Okay, excuse me, Monique.
Yes.
I don't believe we're recording, Francis.
It did
I have
say
the
we were
pop-up.
recording.
It does say recording.
Yep.
It did say.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just continue, okay?
Thank you for checking.
Yes. Today, Liz will show us how to make homemade chicken stock, which is the foundation for many recipes. She will also show us how to make a delicious chicken vegetable soup that will keep you warm during these cold, windy winter months. The recipe can be found at, and I think there'll be a link for the creativefeast.com. This event is part of a series with the Creative Feast, which focuses on food and its impact on healthy living. AARP has been promoting the health and well-being of older Americans for over 60 years. In New Hampshire, AARP works to bring you informative, innovative, and fun virtual events, like today's online cook-along demonstration, as a means of connection and inclusion. AARP has numerous free, healthy living resources on its website, which include staying fit, wellness and longevity, information on healthy eating, as well as staying sharp. There is something for everyone. Francis will put a link in the chart, in the chat, sorry. Chef Liz built her cooking career in various Boston catering and restaurant venues. After starting her family, she re-entered the food world as a cooking instructor and developed Liz Barber's Creative Feast. Chef Liz has appeared on New Hampshire's WMUR Cook's Corner. Her cooking demonstrations and recipes and herb gardens have been featured in various publications, including Where Women Cook, New Hampshire Magazine, the Nashua Telegraph, and the Hippo Press. All her programs focus on the premise that we are healthier when we cook at home. We hope you enjoyed today's program, and Liz, take it away.
Thank you. And thank you, Monique. Welcome to the team. It's really nice to have you here. Thank you all again for joining us today. It has been a long time since we've seen each other. And I was really delighted that when my schedule got busy, AARP made sure that we found a day of the week, end of the month that would work for all of us. So here we're going to meet on the third Friday of each month to continue our cooking classes and cooking entertainment. So I want to give a special thank you to AARP for making sure that this can continue for all of us. So I come to you today with a new look. You can see I've straightened my hair. For some of you, that is probably quite shocking. It's just been a fun thing for me to experiment with and to try something new as I head into my 61st year this year. But we're going to be focused continually on good, healthy food that you can be making at home yourself so that you know what ingredients go into everything. You can carefully select your ingredients and you can make sure that everything that you're putting in your body is something that you are familiar with. So today we're focusing on chicken stock and a chicken soup from that stock. I know I've done this in the past, but you can never have enough or too much of a good, healthy stock. So for some of you, this may be a repeat class, and for others, this may be a new class. Before we get started, I'd like to take you to my website. I'm going to show you where you can find the recipes so that you can come back again and again and find recipes that we've done over the years with AARP, as well as recipes that I've done on my own. So I'm just going to share with you my website. And let's see, let's go back to our website. So thecreativefeast.com. And you're going to find under Food and Fun my recipe blog. And then I've created special pages just for AARP. So these are going all the way back to 2023. And these are all the recipes that we've done in the past, plus what's coming up, along with links to those specific recipes. So here you see we're in 2025, and you can just peruse through here and see what's coming up. The registration, of course, is through AARP. But here, for example, you see our recipes for today. So be sure to come back again and again and enjoy seeing those. But if you go to my recipe blog, you are going to see recipes from the classes I've done at AARP and classes I've done all the way back from, the early 2000s. So there are categories here over on the right, and you can find some recipes there, or you can just go straight down the line. You're always welcome to come here again and again. There's also information here if you are interested in intermittent fasting. I have been an intermittent faster for going on 8 years, and it's been a wonderful way to eat and to not eat, and to do it effectively. Also, low carb is here, and then many more things. You can check out my chickens. I also do a lot of programming with my edible gardens. And you can see my kitchen remodel. So lots of fun things there for you to look at. But right now it's time to get to work. So we're going to do this a little backwards. I'm going to get the soup started because I'd like you to see the end product. And then we're going to go into creating the stock. And you can see here in my ingredients, I've got some crazy things going on. I do have chicken feet here, and I'll tell you why I love to use them. I have chicken legs, and I even have a whole chicken that I will show you how to get the best out of that for making your stocks. So I'm just going to set aside my chicken stock or my chicken broth. I never know. Is it chicken stock? Is it chicken broth? The chicken stock, I think that that definition really comes from using multiple ingredients to build flavor and to create a stock that is rich in flavor, but also in collagen, which is so important for us, especially as we are aging. And so you'll see when we do our stock that has a lot of really great ingredients in it. And then we have our soup, which I obviously have already created and made a chicken stock for you to do for the basis of our soup. Now, I've chosen for this recipe ingredients that I like, but as you know, with my recipes, there are just so many different ways that you can change them up. We always want to start out with our aromatics, and these are the ingredients that begin to build the base flavor of your soup or stew that you may be making. And then we'll add in the rest of these ingredients. But for now, we're going to look at, our trilogy of ingredients that you're going to see most often in a variety of recipes where you're making soups or sauces or things like that. So our aromatics are going to start with, we've got our onion. And so we always want to start, I start cooking with the onion right away because I want to soften the onion. I want to soften those cells, which allows those wonderful flavors, the natural sugars to come out of that onion, and the same with celery, to begin to build those layers. So I'm just taking off my outer skin here. I cut my onion in half. Everybody has their own way of cutting their onion, but I always start by cutting my onion in half. That helps me to get that outer peel off. And then we're going to go ahead and start slicing. Now, I'm going to cut off the stem and I leave the root. The root is going to hold the whole onion together. And always make sure you have a nice sharp knife. And you'll notice here what I'm doing is I'm cutting down to the root without going through. Now, the thinner I cut these slices, the smaller my onion pieces will be. If I am in a hurry and I want to cook things a little bit faster, I'm going to make my pieces of vegetables to be smaller because they will cook in a shorter amount of time. Then I cross-cut my onion, and it's already perfectly diced because of the method that I've used. So it makes it really super easy. Now, I typically wear contact lenses. And so what's going to happen is for many of you who wear glasses, you're going to start to get a little bit teary-eyed. So there are a couple of things that you can do to help prevent that to happen. Number one, go quickly, but be careful. Number two, oh, this peels a little bit on the firm side. Number two, I have heard you could refrigerate your onion a little bit, and that will help to keep those it's the gases actually that are coming off of the onion that connect with your eyes that cause you to tear. So you could do refrigerate your onion, that may help. Some people will work near the stove. If it's a gas stove, turn on your gas burner, and that gas flame will help to draw those the fumes away from the onion. Just grabbing a nice little bowl here. So a couple of things that can help. I'm really happy this is not bothering me right now. If you have a trick that helps you to keep from tearing, go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm sure others would love to know some tricks that might help with that, because it is one of those frustrating things. Of course, you could get onion goggles, which I have seen, but I've already got my glasses on, so that makes it a little difficult. Okay, so we've got our onions, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut my celery. Now, again, I'm trying here. It depends on, in this case, how big do I want my celery pieces to be? Do I want them to be nice and small, or do I like a heartier soup and I want them to be a little bit larger? That is up to you. I'm going to cut these a little bit on the larger size, but I did slice them up so that they'll go a long way in my soup. And then I've got two little carrots that I'm going to add. And these I like to cut on the bias. So I did peel them, but you certainly don't have to peel them. It just looks prettier, but the peels are just fine to leave on. And so I'm going to cut these on the bias, trying to make them all the same size again, so that they'll cook in the same amount of time. So here are my aromatics here. We're going to go ahead and take this over to the stove, and we're going to get this part started. Now, don't forget that if you have any questions, you are welcome to ask me throughout the demonstration. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and get my flame going to medium high, and I'm adding olive oil. You certainly could add butter if you prefer, but I'm going to use a nice, good olive oil. I don't want to use extra virgin olive oil because that is going to add too much flavor to it. And I just somehow managed to break my pitcher here. So I'm going to have to change what I'm going to do my water in. So here is my onions, and they are going to go right in while my onions, carrots, and celery, while my pan is cold. So the reason I'm doing it while it's cold is so that the pan with my aromatics will heat up together. If you get your pan hot with your oil hot and you put your onions in, they will cook. They'll almost cook too fast, so they won't soften and they won't release the flavors and aromatics from them. They'll start to burn faster. So sometimes when you notice that your onions are turning brown, what is that? Well, that's the sugar in the onions that is caramelizing, and that tends to get a bitter flavor. What we're looking to do is to just soften that onion and the celery, and they'll soften up, they'll release their flavors, and then we'll add the next ingredient. There are times when you would want to caramelize your onion, but that's for a totally different kind of a dish. Okay, and so don't hesitate. If there are any questions in the chat, please don't hesitate to read them out loud to me at any time. All right, just gonna get rid of this, get that out of our way. All right, so those are all set. I'm going to start working on the rest of my ingredients. We have garlic going in. Now I am going to let my other vegetables cook a little bit before I do my garlic, because the garlic only takes about 30 seconds to a minute and I don't want it to burn. So we're just going to peel that, and then I'm going to give this a nice chop. You can certainly, there are a lot of people who buy garlic that is already chopped as a way to making things easier. I don't recommend the pre-chopped garlic, and that's because the longer your garlic is sitting chopped, and this goes with your onions too, the stronger the flavor comes. So those jarred garlics are pretty strong in flavor. So I always like to recommend you go ahead and you use garlic that is fresh. Ladies, do we have any questions at this point?
No, Liz, not at this point.
Okay, okay, great. All right, so I'm just giving this a good, this is a garlic rocker. As you can see, it's something that I press down on my garlic. And for those who don't want to, you know, garlic can be pretty stinky on the hands. This is super easy and it gets it nice and fine. So that's, I prefer this. So now I've got my garlic all, you know, chopped up nice and fine. So we'll add that to our pan in just a few minutes. I'm going to give these vegetables a little push. Keeping that temperature pretty on medium so that we don't burn, and just simply soften our vegetables up a little bit.
So Liz, I'd
Now
like to know where
yeah.
you purchased your garlic tool. I didn't see it on your
Oh,
website. I didn't look just yet, but
yeah, I just got mine on Amazon. They're relatively, you know, there's not a lot of differences. So brand name, I can't recommend one over the other, but you want to make sure, of course, that it is all metal. If you do it, you know, and it's plastic, you could easily break it. So yeah, you want to, you know, they're pretty standard. But I have to say, once I discovered this, that's how I mince my garlic. I have had a garlic press, which I like, but then you got to clean out that thing. And so this is so much easier. Okay, so the other ingredients we're using is, we are using farro, which is a lovely Italian grain. What I like about using farro is that it only takes about 10 minutes to cook. So we don't have to worry about this taking forever to cook while our vegetables overcook. But you could also use barley if you'd like. If you prefer to use like a whole grain rice, brown rice, you could do that also, or you can leave it out completely. So, you know, this recipe, we've got our base going with our vegetables and our broth, and then we can introduce, you know, almost anything. So I have my farro here. I love it because it's really kind of, it adds a little bit of a crunch and it adds some richness to the flavor. I also have a can of chickpeas that I'm going to be adding, and I'm going to add the liquid that are in the chickpeas because it is a little bit salted. And so it just adds to the flavor of the broth. But if you'd rather strain that out, you can do that. And then we have diced tomatoes. I'm going to add it with the excuse me, with the liquid that's in the can. And I'm also going to add potatoes. Now, again, you could leave the potatoes out if you don't like to have so much starch. You could do potatoes instead of the grain. You could do one or the other. But you know what? I love a soup with a lot of things to chew on. So that's why I'm going to be including it. All right. Now, we're just at the point where I can smell my onions, which is wonderful. My greens, my celery is a bright green. We're right before that point where my onions might start to burn. and it's time to add our next ingredient. So in goes my garlic, okay? And we're gonna give that a little bit of a toss. I'm gonna lower my temperature down just a little bit because I don't want to burn my garlic. And then I can start to smell that cooking. So this is wonderful. It smells so, so good. And then we're gonna go ahead and I am cutting up my potato. Now, this soup is gonna take about 20 minutes to half an hour to cook, not too long. So the smaller I cut my potatoes, the faster they'll cook. Keep that in mind. So you don't want to put in a whole potato. Obviously, that would take much longer to cook. So just keep that in mind, that the smaller you cut your pieces, the faster they'll cook. Potatoes don't actually take too long to cook in boiling water or broth. So I'm going to be cutting them. They're in about a 1 inch or so size, half an inch to 1 inch. And those will be ready. And then let me just take this so I can put them on top. And then we've got our aromatics are in. We've got our wonderful canned ingredients here. We've got our farro ready to go in. And then we're going to go ahead and add those. We also have our herbs, and I have bay leaf, which is really one of those ingredients that doesn't shout itself out, but sings in the long run. So along with fresh thyme, you can use dried thyme. Just know that dried thyme is a little bit more intense in flavor, so you can use a little bit less. But I prefer my fresh thyme, and I'm just taking it right off the stem. And I love a little bit of rosemary. For me, rosemary is all about the richness of the season, keeping nice and warm. So I'm adding a little bit, but if you don't like rosemary, you don't have to add it. If you prefer to use something like fresh dill, you could add that. We also are going to add a little bit of parsley. All right, so we're checking this out. All right, everything is ready to go. It's time to add in our liquids and get this party going. So we've got our tomatoes go in. I've got my chickpeas are going to go in. I am not worried about those overcooking because they can get softer, no problem. I've got my potatoes from my 2 medium-sized red potatoes. You certainly could use Yukon Gold potatoes if you like. That would be nice. They have a nice buttery flavor. We're going to add our farro in, get all of that in.
Liz, we have a question about
Yep.
the farro. So they
Yes.
wanted to know do you need to wash it or rinse it prior to adding it to the pot?
Nope, it just goes right in. It's not like rice, but you're trying to wash the starch off. This is not the case because they are a different kind of grain. Now here's my chicken broth that I made last night. I'm going to add that in. And we have about between 6 and 8 cups. It's entirely up to you if you like a soup that has more broth in it. You can certainly add more. I'm also going to add a little bit of Worcestershire sauce that adds a little bit of richness to it. So in goes that, along with, we've got our bay leaves, and I'm going to add in my chopped thyme and rosemary. Thyme and rosemary, they do need a longer amount of time to cook so that they can really bring out all of the oils in them. They're much richer herb than, say, parsley, which will be the last thing we'll add in. Along with, we have some baby greens that I'm going to add in. Again, you could choose to add them or not. That's up to you. And then finally, I have already cooked up some chicken breast and I shredded it, and I'm going to add that in. Now, the key thing is that if you're going to be adding chicken to your soup, it's got to be pre-cooked, okay? But also, you don't want to overcook it. So if I were to add my already cooked chicken now, and I still had 20 minutes or so for my recipe to cook, I would overcook my chicken and it would be super dry and completely tasteless. So when adding already cooked chicken or another type of protein, you want to wait to the very end because you just need to warm it. That's all. So I am leaving my chicken off to the side. I'm also going to be adding my parsley near the end. And so I'm going to add that right with my chicken. So I'm just going to pop that right on top. And then finally, I've got a little bit of Parmesan cheese that can go in at the end, or you can serve this with your soup. I'm going to wait until the soup has, another 5 to 10 minutes to cook before I add my greens too. That way they'll be bright green and really tasty. Okay, so these are the last of my ingredients. I'm going to just set these to the side, and then we will add them once the soup is cooked. Okay.
We have
So
a
do
quick
we have?
question.
Sure. Yeah.
Somebody said, Laura said she's gonna use barley pearls. So do
Yep.
they cook the same amount as the farro, or exactly what would
Yeah.
you do?
The barley takes a little bit longer, but would be fine in cooking here within our time frame. So yes, and I love cooking with barley because barley is very high in protein. So I think it's a great addition to any soup, and I love that little bit of a crunch. But make sure, like you said, it is a pearled barley, which means that outer bran that makes it makes barley really tough. That it comes off. So you're looking at a whiter, creamier, similar color to the farro that we have there when you're looking at it in the package. Otherwise, it takes a long time to cook barley that still has that hull on the outside. So you do want the pearled barley. So thank you for making that point. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the broth. Now, I suspect that there are some of you who may not want a chicken broth, but you may want a vegetable broth. So we'll do a little bit of talking about that as well, those options, along with a fish stock or something like that. So we'll do a little bit of a touch on those, but first I want to focus on the ingredients that we're putting into our stock and what we're looking to create. So when you make your own stock at home, you really are doing such a good thing for your body. Now, over the years, I have used a variety of products and some that I have recommended highly for flavor and convenience. And I appreciate that. We don't all have the luxury of spending hours creating different portions of the meal that we're doing. So, and I have many times decided to make a dish and realize, oh, I'm supposed to have a cup of stock. I didn't make chicken stock. I don't have any in the freezer. What am I going to use instead? So, if that's the case, the one product that I've used over the years is it's a paste that you add water to, and it has basically it's a flavoring, right? So Better Than Bouillon is a name that I have, a brand name that I have used over the years, and you can see them, they're in your grocery store where the stocks and all of that are kept, but it's a little jar and it is in a paste. And then of course you add that to water and then to flavor. So they have a huge variety of types. You could get lobster, you could get chicken, you could get, clam, you could get beef, you could, all of these different flavors, and you can use those. And they are great to have in a pinch. You do store them in the refrigerator. Once you open them, they need to be refrigerated. So that had always been my favorite. Now, you may like a box of Swanson stock or, college or whatever makes you happy that you're used to is fine. My only thing about those boxes is that oftentimes I'll open a box and I only need a cup, and then I've got all of this broth left. What do I do with it? Couple of things. You could just stick it in the freezer and freeze it, right? And then the next time you're going to use it, then you have to thaw it out. This is why I prefer the better than bouillon, because I can take just as much as I need and it stays in the refrigerator in its little jar. So that's just a little bit of advice. I just want to get 1 second, go back to our soup. So what I've done here is we have all of our ingredients in, and I've turned up the heat to bring my soup ingredients to a boil. Once they come to a boil, I am immediately going to drop it down to a simmer. This is a technique that you want to do anytime you're making soup, anytime you're making a stock or broth. Bring it up to the boil and immediately drop it down. You don't want to cook a soup at a rolling boil because it will overcook everything too fast and you won't get all of those wonderful flavors out. And then when we come to making a stock, there's another reason why you don't want to do that. So I'm just waiting for this to come to a slight boil and then I'll drop it down.
Liz, we have a
Okay.
question. I hate to
Yeah.
interrupt, but
No.
they were wondering if you could compare farro and barley with the idea of protein content in mind.
I don't know what I'm looking over here to, oh, good. Okay, so my husband did not take my paper goods down to the basement yet, so I was able to grab my box of farro. So if you look on the back, we see it's 6 grams of protein per serving. I think that barley is very similar. So these are things that are really important, especially for those of us, as we're getting older, we don't realize how critically important protein is in our diets. Our diets are so heavy in carbohydrates, but protein is so critical. And so I always like to suggest to people that you find ways to bring protein into your diet. Just be careful. You may be swayed by the protein, but there's still a lot of carbohydrates in here. So you want to look at that too. Okay. So look at that balance. And I don't have off the top of my head, I don't know how much protein is in barley, but you can certainly find that at the grocery store. They'll have that for you.
I looked it up online and it says 6 to 6.5.
Okay, so very similar. Yeah. All right, so I've just dropped down the temperature on my soup. And we've got it on, I'm going to move it over to a burner where I can actually go a little bit lower, just so that it doesn't roll. I have a large burner over here to the side that is always going to be a little bit higher than what I want. So let's get this down. Oh, let's hope that it's being a pain in the neck. It's not turning on for me. Okay. I'm gonna go way down on that and see how we do. Okay, so that is just lightly bubbling, and that's what we want for our soup. Okay, now let's take a look at our ingredients again. We're using the same aromatics that we did, and then I'm going to talk about the chicken. So I personally, when I make a stock, I like to add salt to my stock because I just find that every soup that I make using that stock is just much more flavorful. So I do have here a tablespoon of salt. I'm going to add a few black peppercorns and of course our trusty bay leaves. So those are going to go into our stock pot. So I'm just going to pop that in there. And then we also have in our aromatics, we have our thyme. I'm not going to bother taking this off the stem because this is all going to be strained out at the end. So a nice little handful of thyme. We also have parsley. I include the stems because they add a lot of flavor. And again, I don't have to cut them up. So in they go into the pot. Then I have my carrots. These are going to add a level of sweetness to our stock. So again, you can see here, I did not bother to peel them. I'm actually also going to use the tops of the carrots, whatever. I'm just going to throw them in because this is going to all be strained out. And I have to confess, many times I've strained out the vegetables from a stock and I've put them into a food processor and made those vegetables into a sauce, which is a great way to reuse them. Sometimes I'll sit down with a fork and a knife and I'll just eat them rather than throwing them out with the cooked chicken bones or whatever. And then today I gave a bunch to my chickens, which was great. Now, celery. Okay, so this is a great use. So if you are, I'm a huge celery fan. So I will eat my celery all the way down to like here. And then I've got the heart of the celery. What do you do with that? Well, that goes in to make your stock. So in this case, I'm just going to cut this off. Okay, and you can cut this into smaller pieces if you want. It's not necessary. That heart is going to go right in there. It's that simple. Okay, now I could add a little bit more flavor to this by adding the leaves. I'm actually going to chop these up, and rather than use it in my broth, I'm going to go ahead and use it in my soup because I love celery that much. I want to actually be able to taste it. But don't ever throw these leaves away because they are wonderful for flavoring soups and stocks and sauces. Now, here's the thing. I often will keep a container, an open container in my freezer. And when I'm cooking with onions and I should have saved these because that would have been the right thing to do. These onion ends here, these would be perfect in here. Okay, so you don't have to throw any of that away. Now let me just go grab an onion here. I'm going to turn my soup up just a little bit. There we go. And so you can, with your onion, like I said, you can save all those onion ends, put them in your freezer, save your carrot ends, put them in your freezer, your celery hearts, put them in the freezer. And then those are ready for you when you want to make a stock. You don't have to cut a new fresh vegetable if you don't want to, because you've got all these little bits and things. What I would not add to there are other vegetables. If you add peppers, then your stock is going to be very heavily flavored in peppers. If you like that, fine, but it's not the traditional way to make a stock. I personally don't like to use broccoli or cauliflower, anything like that. I stick to the trilogy, which is onions, carrots, and celery. And then my stock is going to be neutral in flavor and will go with any dish that I want to make. Now, if you're going to be using an onion, all right, the great thing is too, I don't have to peel it. It's going to add, just by using this outer skin, this one I'll come up, using the outer skin of my onion will actually make my stock, it'll look richer in color. So I'm just going to use, this is a pretty big onion, so I'm going to use a half an onion, but you could certainly use the whole onion. It's up to you. But I think I've got a really good mix of the ingredients there. And let me clean this off here. And then we'll get down to talking about our chicken and what parts of the chicken to use for your stock. Now, oh, let me just go back to a vegetable stock. Say you are, Liz, I'm a vegetarian, or I really would like a nice rich vegetable stock. Then that is very easy for you to do. All you need to do is you need to take your vegetables and roast them first. So you can use, if I were to make a vegetable stock here, I would double the number of vegetables and I would put them on a sheet pan with a little bit of, actually you don't even need oil. And I would put them in like a 425 degree oven for about 40 minutes just to get them browned so that they caramelize a little bit. And then I would use those as the main ingredient for my, this is going to be more of a broth or, but I would use it for that, right? So that will help, that caramelization of your vegetables will help to intensify their flavor and intensify your vegetable stock result. Use the same aromatics. You could actually add garlic if you want. I don't use garlic in my regular chicken stock, but I do use onions. So you can be a little bit more experimental here in a vegetable stock because it's going to, you may have different uses for it. Again, if you want to use peppers, you can. I don't recommend green peppers because they're super strong, and I wouldn't use a lot of red peppers. But that's, again, that's really up to you. So anyway, we've got our aromatics here ready to go. Now we're going to talk about our chicken. Okay, so yeah, I've got chicken feet here. They're hard to find sometimes, but the thing, why am I using chicken feet? What I want to do is I want to use parts of a chicken with the bone, because it's what's in the bone, the connective tissue that has as much collagen as possible to help make this a very rich broth. That collagen is what we're trying to extract from the bones of our chicken to help build the nutritional value of our broth and give us all of that collagen. So what does that mean? What are you talking about with the collagen? Well, I'm going to get you an example. The collagen, as I said, is the connective tissue that holds those bones together. You can also say, if you were to cut a bone, you can also extract the marrow, all of that. And there's so many good, important nutrients in them. But here's how you can tell that you've gotten a really good mix of chicken parts that are rich in collagen. All right. So I made this last night. Okay. So you can see that it's a little bit gelled. And then when I lift it out, it literally is like Jello. Okay. So if I hold this over my plate, you can see it's not pouring onto the plate. It's actually standing on the plate. So that tells me that the ingredients, the chicken parts that I put in there are so rich in collagen that my broth is literally standing on its own. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. That tells me that I have really done such a great job in selecting those parts of the chicken that have all that collagen. Now I'm just going to pop this into my soup just so I don't waste a bit of that. So you want to use parts of the chicken where the body parts come together, right? So they have to hold together, and collagen is all part of that. So the feet are huge because there are a lot of little bones and a lot of little areas where this collects. And so they are really a bonus. Also chicken wings, okay? But, okay, somebody, made buffalo chicken wings so popular, and all of those chicken wings that you see at the restaurant, have you noticed how expensive they are? Okay, this is what the food industry does to itself and shoots itself in the foot. So you make a really great recipe and everybody's following it. Every restaurant now has chicken wings on the menu. And so what happens is that it drives the price up of chicken wings. Chicken wings do have a lot of great collagen in them. And if you can find them, and they're reasonably priced for you, by all means use them. Chicken feet are less expensive, but they do the same thing. Chicken legs, also drumsticks and chicken legs, they have connective tissue in them. So I have used these as well. All right, so we're going to use about 4 pounds of our chicken in there. Now notice I didn't put chicken breast in there because the chicken breast, if I put that in there and I'm going to cook this for quite a while, the meat and the chicken breast it will actually overcook and get kind of dry. So I would if you got a bone in chicken breast, I would cut the breast meat off the bone and put that breast bone into your pot. That would be good to use. And then at the end, about 15, 20 minutes before you're ready to take your broth off, you can add your chicken breast and that will cook through, and then you can shred that and use that in your soup. So I'm going to go ahead and add my chicken leg, and then I'm going to show you the parts of a whole chicken that would be valuable for you to use. Okay, do we have any questions before I go on with this?
Oh, Liz, we have quite a few.
Okay, go right
Okay.
ahead.
So they want to know, do you always need to leave your soup uncovered when it's simmering?
Yeah, actually, I was just looking over here thinking, oh, I could cover that up, because of course, if you leave it, uncovered, more will the broth will evaporate a little bit, but I'm also not doing this at a rolling boil. So, I generally, I'll cover it partially, not all the way, because if I cover it all the way, then it could be boiling inside and I wouldn't know it. So you just want to keep an eye on that.
They also want to know, why don't you use raw chicken in your soup?
Because you need to cook it first before you put it in the soup. It's a textural thing, and also I don't want to just drop my raw chicken in there. I find that it's so much easier to just cook it separately and then shred it to do it.
And let's see, how much chicken feet did you put in there? What was there a weight or a
Yeah,
number?
I think it was about 2 pounds. Yeah.
And one other question was, do you know how much protein we need in a day?
Okay, that is a calculation that I can never quite remember. I think it's
Do you want me to Google it for you?
yeah, could you? Because I think it's and do it by grams. Find out how many grams, and you have to also do it. Uh, I think for women, make sure it's for women, and just take into account that it seems to go up as we get older. So I know I'm trying to hit a sweet spot of about 120 grams of protein. That is a lot of protein, and what that means is that I'm eating far more protein. I've had to cut down on my carbohydrates, which are the things that I should be watching on for anyway, so that I'm getting the protein rather than filling up on carbohydrates and then using protein as an afterthought. Your protein should be your first thought. So how can I get that in? So let me just give you an example of a lunch that I've been doing. I take a whole can of tuna fish and I have that. I mix it. I love this. I mix it with salsa and cottage cheese. Cottage cheese also has a good amount of protein, and I mix them together. And I have to say, I love that. People in the cafeteria where I have lunch sometimes they think I'm crazy, but I like it. But eggs are a good source of protein, but good lean meat is really one of your best sources of protein. So you want to keep that in mind. Okay, I'm just turning that down a little bit. All right, let me just show you with the chicken, okay? And I don't think you can see this as closely. Let me just see if I can manipulate my camera a little bit here. What am I looking at? Okay, so if I zoom in here, so do you see where there's a fat line here? Okay, that tells me where I need to cut. And on that fat line, if I can include that part of the chicken in my stock, that is an area where I'm going to get a lot of collagen from as well. Now, one thing that a lot of people do, and I'm going to zoom out again here, is when we're doing chicken, okay, cooking a whole chicken, if you want it to take less time, then what you want to do is you want to take out the backbone and press the chicken flat, which is called spatchcock chicken. So here is my backbone here, and I want to take that out. Now, I have learned over time the best thing to do is to buy yourself a really great bone cutting shears. not a regular kitchen shears because they're not going to do it. I only paid $12 for these. And I don't think it has the brand name on it, but you can find them online pretty easily. And I just go down the back along the side of the back, and it will cut through the ribs and all the way down to the bottom. Just watch your fingers because this is a super sharp instrument, but it's better than a regular kitchen scissors because it has a better torque to it, and it's much easier to cut. And they are made for this purpose solely. So you can hear crunching through there. And so the back of your chicken, like if you're going to cut out the back of your chicken to make your spatchcock chicken, stick this in the freezer for the next time that you're going to make a chicken stock, and then you're all set. And if you can do that with a lot of different ingredients, just put them in the freezer. Sometimes I buy chicken from Costco. I'm just going to cut the breastbone a little bit here. I cut a chicken. I get a chicken from Costco, and how you've got all the bones left. What do I do with them? I just take them and I put them in the freezer. I take all the meat off, put the bones from that cooked rotisserie chicken in the freezer, and then the next time I want to make a really rich chicken stock, I take those bones out and I use that as part of my chicken stock. So you don't have to throw those away either. And now my chicken is ready for spatchcock cooking. So I'm going to put this in my refrigerator and let it air dry in the refrigerator overnight. And that will help to make the skin super crispy. So I just wanted to show you that little bit there. And now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to add our water to this. Okay, so we've got in here our aromatics, our chicken parts. Start with cold water, okay? Because we want everything to come up to temperature gradually. So I've got, you can be using 6 to 8, I think 8 cups, but I last night went up to 12 cups, and I thought that it still came out beautifully. So the key is that I had all of this great collagen producing parts of the chicken to help this really get nice and thick and rich. So here we go. And the last bit of this. Remember, I've got my salt, my peppercorns in there, and now I've got my my stock ready to go. Now, just like I did with my soup base, I want to bring this up to the boil and then immediately drop it down. So why do I need to do that for my broth? Well, because I want a clear broth. I don't want a cloudy broth. And if this water is bubbling like crazy the whole time I'm cooking, it's going to stir up and pull out a lot of debris, not debris, it's not, I'm using the right word, a lot of from the chicken bones and the skin, if you've got it in there. It's just going to make it all very cloudy. And I think that having a clear broth is really the way to go. So you bring it up to the boil and then drop it down until it's just moving like this. Now, what I want to do, I do want to share with you, and I'm just going to take 1 second to get to my website, and then I'm going to share it with you because I do have, let's see if I have it here. Yes, I do. All right, I'm going to share with you all my website one more time. That's going to go down. Oops. Okay, this is where I'm manipulating everything here. So we're still up and running. I want to share. Where is my Zoom? Here we go. I want to share with you my website. Make sure we got that. And okay, so this is my homemade chicken stock recipe on the website, right? And I'm going to share this in the chat so we make sure that everybody has this. Let's see, what's this? Sorry, ladies, I am all over the place here. Zoom. There we go. Nope. What happened to that? All right, I'm gonna have to share that with my handlers a little bit later. But what you can see here is if you go to my Food and Fun and you see homemade chicken stock, if you go down to the bottom, you're going to see video here. And this shows you what it looks like when it's boiling, and you don't want that, versus what it looks like when it's just bubbling, and that's what you want. And then, of course, here is a little bit of a picture of the broth. Okay, so I just wanted to share that with you so that you could have another place to find it. And now, okay, this opened up, so I'm going to go into the chat and I'm going to share with you, everybody, the link to my website where that is. So you can go into the chat and you will find it there. Okay, all right, so here we go. We're going to go back to our broth, our soup, sorry. And you want to make sure that your potatoes are cooked, and they look cooked to me. The farro is perfect. Now, watch how the finish goes for our soup. So in goes our greens. Again, this is just going to be such a full soup with so many good things. These are baby kale. I don't even have to chop them. You could certainly use baby spinach, baby arugula. Any of that would be beautiful in here. It just needs to wilt and it's ready for you. And then, of course, we're going to finish this up with all of our wonderful chicken. I like a lot of chicken because this is going to be a meal for me. So I go way over and put in about 4 cups of chicken along with my parsley. And there we are. So that is my soup. Now, remember, it only needs, oh, let's not forget this. It only needs to warm up enough to heat through that chicken and to wilt those baby kale leaves. And then remember, this is our celery. I told you, don't ever throw these celery leaves away because they will add a wonderful, light, bright flavor. So I'm going to use this in my soup. Again, look at how gorgeous that is. And then we're all set. Now, some people will say, well, Liz, that really kind of looks like a stew to me. You got so much stuff in there. Well, guess what? I could continue to add broth to make this just a little bit brothier if I'd like. But I got to tell you, this is a soup that I am going to love because it's got a lot of things that I can munch on. Just like I said, I like so much. And then a little bit of, serve it with my cheese. And there we go. So there is our chicken soup. I've got my stock going over there. I'm going to turn off the stove here. And we have a great basis for a wonderful meal. Now, you can change this up if you like. If you don't have chicken, okay, but you have frozen shrimp and it's peeled and deveined and ready to go. The last 10 minutes of cooking, throw your shrimp in, and now you have a shrimp-based soup. If you have cooked hamburger, for example, or sausage left over from a dinner, chop it up and add it in the last few minutes just to get it nice and warmed. So I think we have really done a great job in getting this soup going, getting our stock going. Before we go, do we have any other questions from the audience?
Yes, we do, Liz.
Okay.
They want to know, how long should you simmer the soup?
According to the recipe, I think it's about 25 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
And really, what is it? You need to taste it. Eat a potato. Did I cook it long enough? Yep, I got it. Are the carrots cooked long enough? Yes, they are. So always do a little taste before you pull it off the stove.
Okay, and then they said, did you use chicken breast in your soup?
So I did cook my chicken breast separately. And then I shredded it to add to the soup, but you can use, you know how we're cooking with those chicken legs? If you want, you can pull the meat off of the chicken legs and use that if you want. It's just going to be super soft. So just keep that in mind.
And how long does your stock last? What do you store it in? Can you put it in the freezer?
Okay. Yes, you can put it in the freezer. In fact, I generally keep my stock. So you can see I have a jar here in my canning jar. I keep a bunch of these in my freezer so that whenever I need chicken stock, I just pull them out. How long will they stay in your refrigerator? It depends on your refrigerator. I have a brand new refrigerator. I'm so excited. And my stock has kept well for about a week and a half. But of course, I'm keeping it in a closed jar and I'm keeping it at the back of the refrigerator. That's the best place to keep it.
All right. So Monique, are you ready?
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, let me get my video here. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Liz, for today's lesson and cook-along demonstration. I can't wait to make this delicious chicken soup. Today's cook-along demonstration is one of many upcoming virtual event offerings provided by AARP New Hampshire. Please visit www.aarp.org/New Hampshire to learn of our other virtual events, which include gentle yoga, painting classes, and educational webinars. If you're interested in volunteering for the AARP New Hampshire community team, please contact us at our NHAARP at aarp.org website. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, ladies, for your help.